covering climate, weather, and the industrial enterprise from Penn State Meteorology. Here is Up in the Air.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Up in the Air. I'm Kelly in class.
And I'm Noah Berggren.
So Noah, time is flying by here. This is our second to last episode of the season. And fall break is coming up. Do you have any exciting plans?
Yeah, so actually I'm going to be heading home for the Thanksgiving holiday. I've been away from New England since August, so I get to see and spend time with my family and friends. Also have a nice home-cooked Thanksgiving dinner, which I won't have to cook, so at least most of it, so that'll be very nice. But how about you?
I actually have really exciting plans. So before Thanksgiving, I'm actually going to go see a Flyers game. I have row 6 tickets, so it'll be really cool to see the Flyers play up close. Also, I'm, of course, excited to go home and see my family and eat a wonderful Thanksgiving meal.
Well, on this week's episode, we have stories on Christmas trees, how the colder weather impacts athletes, and also La Nina and El Nino coming up.
And later, we'll also take a stop by at the Climate Wall with Vivian, but we'll have all that and more. First, here's Update in the Air. This past weekend, State College set a new low record of 15 degrees, beating the old record of 20 degrees set back in 1933. This blast of cold air lingered around State College Friday night into Saturday for the homecoming game against Rutgers. Temperatures reached the mid-30s for the game, giving a shock to the fans who attended the game and the players on the field. Just like rain and snow, cold temperatures can affect the players. In the cold, reactions happen slower in the body. Nerves that send signals from your brain to the rest of your body move slower when it is colder, which means that the reaction time is also slowed. Also in colder weather, muscles get stiffer and do not work as efficiently and are more likely to tear, making strains more common in the cooler weather. While playing in these cold conditions may seem less than ideal for some players, some teams have invested in warming technologies to help their players keep warm during the game.
The carbon distribution on Earth is highly unbalanced. In fact, only 1/100th of a 1,000% of the carbon dioxide on our planet is found in the atmosphere, biosphere, and the oceans, with the remaining 99.9% bound deep within our Earth. However, this enormous amount of store at this depth is not isolated from our atmosphere. There is actually a constant exchange between the underground and the surface over the past millions of years. Tectonic plates that sink into the deep mantle take large amounts of carbon dioxide with them. At the same time, scientists believe that deep carbon is released back up into the Earth due to volcanism over mid-oceanic ridges in the form of CO2. They have been able to prove the existence of 2 major periods of this enhanced release around 130 and 50 million years ago. Using numerical carbon cycle models, the scientists simulated the effect of increased carbon dioxide being released from deep within the Earth. This showed that these periods correlate with higher CO2 concentrations above our heads in the atmosphere at the same time. The global CO2 release over these rifts, however, are just a fraction of the anthropogenic carbon release, said one leading scientist. Yet they represent a missing key component of deep carbon cycle that controls long-term climate here on the surface of the Earth over millions of years.
Halloween is over and Thanksgiving is right around the corner. While some people are getting ready to stuff their turkey and bake the pumpkin pie, others have already started getting ready for the Christmas season. Most people either set up a fake Christmas tree or go to a Christmas tree farm to cut down their own, but if you're feeling adventurous and want to grow your own tree, you may want to think about what climate you're in and also what type of tree you want to grow. Most evergreen species prefer deep rains followed by dry, sunny periods in order to allow roots to dry out, but also provide relief from insect and fungus-loving dampness. Fir trees including Douglas, Noble, and Concolor grow best in a minimum temperature of -30 degrees Fahrenheit to a minimum temperature of 0 degrees Fahrenheit. While some trees may thrive in colder conditions, extreme cold poses a threat to Christmas trees' growth. Extreme cold can injure a tree, and excessive snow and ice can cause limbs and branches to snap off. It may be a little late to start growing a Christmas tree now, but if you want your tree to grow sooner rather than later, pine trees may be your best bet as they tend to grow faster than other species.
As we further build cities, we have little understanding of how these developments are influencing organisms that once lived there. New research from the University of Toronto Centre for Urban Environments says that urban developments can be both a good and bad thing for organisms and wildlife that once lived there. It can be a good thing because it helps along the process of natural evolution of species into more durable breeds. However, it can be a very bad thing because it can eliminate a once native organism or a piece of wildlife from a particular area. The researchers are assessing various means of genetic adaptation to be able to preserve the natural species despite increased urban development. The researchers said that it is something that is often overlooked when changing the local landscape, that the local environmental biology is being changed forever.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has declared a La Niña ahead of the winter season. Most people hear the term La Niña but don't actually know what it means. A La Niña occurs when sea surface temperatures in the Central Pacific Ocean drop to lower than normal levels. The cooling of the water near the equator, which typically unfolds during the late fall into the early winter, yields impacts around the globe. In the United States, a La Niña winter means more rain in the Pacific Northwest, brief periods of below average temperatures in the Northeast, and generally dry and mild conditions for the southern tier. While an El Niño can fuel streams of moisture into California, a typical La Niña winter prevents storms from delivering snow and rain to the region. One way to see the La Niña at work is to look at all the tropical storms this year. This year's tropical storm season has been very active, all thanks to the La Niña. The La Niña creates prime breeding grounds for the tropical systems in the Atlantic Ocean due to the lack of wind shear in the Atlantic, which increases the potential for higher than normal amounts of tropical systems. A La Niña does not always immediately develop right after an El Niño. However, research suggests that the strong El Niños are more likely to transition into La Niñas.
A new type of smart fabric developed at the University of Washington could pave the way for jackets that store invisible passcodes and even open the door to your apartment or office. The UW computer scientists have created fabrics and fashion accessories of the like that can store data from security codes to identification tags without needing any onboard electronics or sensors. This is a completely electronic-free design, which means you could iron the smart fabric or even put it in the washer and dryer. Scientists are using something that already exists on a smartphone with no power practically, so the cost of reading this type of data is negligible. In one particular example, the scientists stored the passcode to an electronic door lock on the patch of a conductive fabric sewn to a shirt cuff. They unlocked the door by waving the cuff in front of an array of magnets. The UW researchers also created fashion accessories like a tie, belt, necklace, and wristband and decoded the data by swiping a smartphone across them. The team also demonstrated that the magnetized fabric could be used to interact with a smartphone while it is still in your pocket. While this system comes with a heavy price, this could someday lead to people being able to interact with their smart devices without having to take their phone out of their pocket.
Welcome back to the show.
We now have a special feature from our own Chris Landolfi on the Navy and climate change.
In Washington, D.C., there are not many issues that cause greater division in the Capitol building than climate change. If we travel across the Potomac River, however, to the Pentagon behind me, the U.S. military has acknowledged that climate change poses a risk to operations across the globe. Penn State's own Dr. David Titley was there at the forefront, initiating and leading the U.S. Navy's task force on climate change in 2009.
Actually, I was asked to come up to the Pentagon by the head of the Navy. We call the Chief of Naval Operations, the senior admiral in the Navy. And he basically called me up out of the blue when I was just running the Navy's operational weather and ocean prediction programs and said, "Hey, Titley, we're really concerned about the Arctic." And it really started with the Arctic. Come up to the Pentagon, I'll make you oceanographer of the Navy, and you're going to tell me, do we need to worry about the Arctic or not? Because I'm getting a lot of different people telling me a lot of different stuff. But I had about maybe 2 weeks to look at this, and I consulted pretty much everybody I could find in 2 weeks. A lot of scientists from a lot of different organizations. And basically what I figured out was, yes, the Arctic is changing. It's changing very quickly. And more broadly, it's in fact really a harbinger or a leading indicator, if you will, of many of the climate changes that are going to be impacting the United States Navy and the military in general. So my recommendation to the Navy, which was accepted, is that we should not just form a task force to think about the Arctic, but rather we should initiate or form a task force on climate change writ large, with initial emphasis on the Arctic.
Since the task force was formed in 2009, other branches of the military have begun to follow the Navy's lead.
So it's been thought of a little bit, but I would say starting in the mid-2000s is when this started to gain traction, and then the Navy's effort was really the first within a service at the senior levels of one of the military services that got going. Then it showed up, the climate change showed up in a major Department of Defense strategy document in 2010. We called it the Quadrennial Defense Review. Doesn't matter what it called, but it's a big deal. If your issue is in the Quadrennial Defense Review, it's a big deal. So for the first time, climate change was mentioned as something the Department of Defense needed to pay attention to. And then there's strategies, there's Arctic strategies, there's climate change adaptation. There's all kinds of paperwork and strategies and roadmaps and objectives.
While Congress may continue to debate over actions taken to mitigate the effects of climate change, the Department of Defense will continue to perform research and take the necessary steps to ensure military operations remain uninterrupted in a changing world. For Up in the Air, I'm Chris Landolfi.
Thanks for sticking with us. So, Kellyanne, the Thanksgiving holiday is right around the corner. Also right around the corner is our last home game as Penn State students this Saturday against Nebraska. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sad, but it's been a great season.
It has. We were number 2 at one point in the season, and I'm really happy that I was able to experience it here for my senior year at Penn State. I'm really excited for the game this weekend, but also very sad as well. Like you said, it is our last game. We're seniors here now, so we're going to be graduating, moving on soon. But this weekend's game against Nebraska is going to be a stripe out, and I'm really excited for that. But the forecast is a little bit questionable. Our Vivian Rennie is here on the climate wall to give us more details on the forecast. Vivian.
I do have more details on that, and as you said, it is going to be incredibly variable. We're going to be seeing a large front move through the area, so overall it's going to be very wishy-washy on that forecast, but hopefully it can hold out for some good weather for you guys. Looking at our climate outlook, for our this time of the year, we're seeing 49 degrees as our average high here in State College, getting down to an average low of only 33 degrees. So we're going to be seeing those temperatures continuing to fall as we get farther and farther into winter. But looking at our records for today, we're seeing a high of 71 back in 1973, so that's a lot warmer. But getting into those lows, we saw a low of 9 degrees back in 1933, where that's where we're going to be seeing those cooler temperatures, kind of like what we saw for our last home game, but overall it's going to be a little bit warmer for this next period. Looking at our temperature outlook, those above normal temperatures are really going to be focused in the western portion of the United States, really focusing in around Phoenix, and those above normal temperatures are really going to be around, especially in the Pacific Northwest. Looking at our temperature outlook, those cooler temperatures are going to be seen in the eastern portion of the United States, even closer to the ocean. We're going to be seeing those even colder temperatures. Those temperatures are going to be slightly below average, getting more and more below average as you get closer to the ocean. Looking at our precipitation outlook, though, we're going to be seeing something slightly different. We're going to be seeing below average precipitation really spread across the entirety of the United States, with a little bit of above normal precipitation up in the Pacific Northwest, really centered in Washington and Oregon, where we're going to be seeing those above normal temperatures and those above normal precipitation amounts. Looking at our below normal precipitation amounts, we're going to be seeing those especially here in State College. We're right going to be on the border, but still slightly below average precipitation. Looking at our drought monitor, we're still continuing to monitor this drought up in northern Montana, and even getting a little bit more into South Dakota, where we're going to be seeing those droughts. We're even seeing some droughts in Arkansas now, really pulling up near the Mississippi River Valley. We're going to be seeing a little bit of a drought. Looking here in Pennsylvania and into the Northeast, we're seeing less drought than we've been seeing for the rest of the season, but we're still going to be seeing a little bit of drought in the southern portion of the state, but overall not too bad here. Looking at our weekend forecast, we're going to be seeing 46 degrees with a few possible showers. That's where we're going to be seeing that very variable outlook for the Penn State game. And Sunday we're going to be seeing, after that front pushes through, those temperatures are going to drop very rapidly, getting only up to about 35 degrees on Sunday with partly sunny skies. Although that's going to be kind of cold and a little bit sad, we're going to be seeing no snow yet in the forecast, so that's always something good to think about.
Yeah, Vivian, it sounds like there's not going to be any rain for the game, at least for most of the game, but Kellyanne, hopefully the rain will stay away from Beaver Stadium this Saturday.
Fingers crossed.
For this week on Up in the Air, I'm Noah Bergeron.
And I'm Kellyanne Class. We'll see you next week up in the air.